Good morning, students. Today I have the lectures on a poem, A Psalm of Life, written by Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. Before going through this poem, we should understand about life. Actually, life is divided into two parts. One is positive attitude and another is negative attitude. From the positive attitude, we can find number one, life is real. Number two, acting in the present. Number three, doing noble deeds. Number four, inspiring others. In the contrary, from the negative attitude, we can find number one, life is a dream. Number two, brooding over the past. Number three, remaining idle or inactive. Number four, dreaming about the future. The poet conveys an important message to the reader. The message is act in the living present with a positive bent of mind. It is so because life is real and earnest. The poem also highlights the idea that the time is very precious. Therefore, we should act in the living present to achieve our goal in life. We should follow the footprints of great men in our lives. That is the only way to translate our dreams into reality. A psalm of life means a song of life. People have various interpretation of life. To some, it is unpredictable too. Those who travel in air-conditioned cars and sleep on Dunlop beds say that life is a bed of roses. Those who struggle for bread, pass through hardships, say that life is an empty dream or cheat. The pessimists have a negative impression on life, while the optimistic people treat life from a brighter point of view. The fact is that life is made happier or unhappier by actions, thoughts. If your actions are noble, humble, constructive, then life will be good for you. If you are lazy, crooked, life will be harassing for you. The choice is yours. Whether you will live like the life of a beast or the life of a god is your choice. Life cannot be blamed for it. H.W. Longfellow, 1807 to 1882, one of the most quoted poets in English language. He was born in Portland in America in 1807. His father was a popular lawyer. After completing his studies, he became the professor of modern languages at Bowdoin in 1829 and then a professor at Harvard. This lasted for a quarter of a century. Then he started writing poetry and used his hand at narrative, descriptive and narrative poetry. He died in 1882 and was buried in Mount Auburn Cemetery near Cambridge. His poetry appeals to those who have serious purpose in life. Let's learn about this poem, A Psalm of Life, which will be discussed with stanza-wise explanation. Listen. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Again listen. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Write down the word meanings of the first stanza. Psalm means a sacred song. A psalm of life means a song that sings of life. Numbers means verses. Mournful means sad or depressing. Empty dream means meaningless dream or an illusion. For the soul is dead means a man who is inactive is. Slumbers means like a dead man, and things are not what they seem means what seems to be bad may not be bad at all. Then listen the theme of the first stanza. The poet is not prepared to hear any negative term against life. He dislikes people who say in sorrowful tones that life is nothing but an empty dream. According to him, this view is wrong. If a man is inactive and does not contribute to the welfare of the society, he is no different from a dead person. In other words, life is full of opportunities. Man must work hard to achieve his goal instead of grieving over the losses. He also says that a man who is passive is like a dead person. We should be positive in our outlook towards life. Then learn the second stanza of this poem, Psalm of Life. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest. Was not spoken of the soul. Again listen. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest. Was not spoken of the soul. So here the word meanings of the second stanza. Earnest means serious. Grave means death. Goal means destination or aim. Dust thou art, to dust returnest means man is made of a dust and returns to dust after death, as man is mortal. Was not spoken of the soul means what is true about the body is not true about the soul. The soul does not perish. The themes of the second stanza. Some people say life is created from dust. It will return to dust too. When man dies, physical body goes to earth, but not the soul. In fact, the soul is immortal. It cannot be killed, cannot be burnt. After the death of a physical body, the soul goes to heaven. Life is not a dream. It is very much real and serious. One should not take life merely to pass our time waiting for death. Although it is mentioned in the Bible that a mortal is made of earth and he will return to earth after death, yet it must be remembered that it is spoken about bodies and not of souls. Soul is immortal. The third stanza of this poem said here that not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. Listen again. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us farther than today. The word meanings of the stanza. Enjoyment means worldly pleasures. Sorrow means worldly pain. Destined means fixed goal of life. To act means to perform actions in the present. Tomorrow means future. Today means present. Here the themes of the third stanza. Life is precious. We therefore must not seek enjoyment as our only goal. We must not similarly spend our time in lamenting over losses or regret the wrong decisions taken in the past. We must neither look for pleasure nor feel sorrowful. The ultimate destiny of man is made by man himself. We are the creators of our fate by our own choices. We are here on the earth to work to reach our destination. Our actions will make our tomorrow far better than today. Let's learn about the fourth stanza of this poem, A Psalm of Life. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Again listen. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Words and phrases of this stanza. Fleeting means passing by quickly. Stout means strong. Muffled drums means drums which are covered by cloth to make their sound dull. D-U-L-L. Marches means funeral procession. The explanation of the fourth stanza of this poem, A Psalm of Life. Life is short, but art is long. Human deeds, if positive, can stay long. Time changes quickly. Time waits for none. Time kills everybody, but art cannot be killed. Dharma is dead, but Konarka in Odisha sings his great deeds. In these beautiful lines, the poet refers to all work as art, which is seemingly endless. The time at our disposal is short. Time is running away quickly. It makes it difficult to complete our assignments. We are strong and brave, but the beatings of our heart are only reminding us of the approaching death. Like muffled drums, they are producing muffled sounds reminding us of the drum beatings of a funeral march. Life is short. Therefore, we have to hurry up to finish our assigned work in time. Listen what is said, stanza 5 of this poem. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Again listen. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Notes and glossary of this stanza 5. Bivouac means a temporary camp for troops without tents. Dumb means unable to speak. Here it means obedient, dull, submissive. Dumb driven cattle means cattle which do not protest and more in a particular direction as desired. Strife means struggle. Now listen the themes of the fifth stanza of this poem. The whole world is a battlefield. It is like a military camp for troops. We have to fight our battle by performing action. We must not be led quietly by others as if we were dumb driven cattle. We should not be swayed by others. We should fight in the battlefield of life like brave heroes. We must fight all odds heroically. Actually, we must not be submissive and must not be made to move in a particular direction. We possess originality and should not act like dumb cattle. Listen the stanza 6. Trust no future however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and guard overhead. Again listen this stanza. Trust no future however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and guard overhead. Notes and a glossary of this stanza. Let the dead past means let the past remain. Bury its dead means dead for it cannot be recalled. Heart within means courage in oneself. God overhead means faith in God who is in heaven. The themes of the stanza 6. The poet asks us not to trust the future. However pleasant it seems to be, the future is uncertain and unpredictable. Similarly, we should forget the past because it is dead and gone and is useless. The poet exhorts us to act in the present because the present is in our hands. We should do our work with courage and determination, having faith in Supreme God. We must plant our feet firmly in the present and work. If we have the heart in the right place and have faith in God, everything will be fine. Then we can explain the stanza 7. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Again listen this stanza 7. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Listen what meanings of this stanza. Sublime means glorious or noble. Departing means while dying. Footprints means great example for others to follow. Sands of time means significant achievements in life. Here the themes of the stanza 7. Lives of great men teach us how to work hard and achieve our goals. We can get fulfillment and make our lives sublime through our actions. Just as a man walking on the seashore leaves his footprints on the sands, similarly, these men have left their footprints on the sands of time. Their lives motivate us to emulate them. They inspire us to make our own lives sublime like theirs. In other words, we can make our lives excellent by doing meaningful actions. Every great life is an inspiration to us. So, lives of great men all remind us that we can make our lives sublime so that when we depart the world, we shall leave behind us footprints on the sand of time. Listen what is said here, stanza 8. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn men, a fallen and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Again listen, footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn men, a fallen and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. The word meanings of this stanza 8. Solemn means awe, inspiring. Man means sea. Fallen means miserable. Brother, take heart means to have courage. Shipwrecked means a man who has gone astray from the right path. Listen about stanza 8. We shall leave behind us footprints on the sand of time. These examples will help other troubled friends, shipwrecked brothers, to have courage. Life is like an ocean. Man sails in it. Life is like a boat. While sailing at times, the boat is destroyed or sunk. The sailor becomes hopeless. At that time, the example and wise counsels of a people encourage them to have patience that take heart again. In the same way, the accomplishments of a great man inspire others to follow them. They act like our guides. Their actions act like beacon lights, and we feel encouraged to emulate them. We feel motivated to follow their examples to excel in our chosen fields. Following the great men has twofold benefits. Firstly, we can make our lives sublime, and secondly, we can motivate others to proceed on the way to success. If a man loses his way in life, he may be encouraged to follow our examples just as a shipwrecked sailor is guided by the footprints on the seashore. Let's learn the last stanza 9. Let us then be off and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Again listen, same stanza. Let us then be off and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. The words and phrases of this last stanza. Be off and doing means work with courage and zeal. Heart for any fate means courage to face any eventuality in life. Still means always. To labor and to wait means to do our duty and wait patiently for the reward. In the concluding stanza 9 of this poem, the poet tells us not to idle away our lives. We should perform our actions with courage and determination. We must remain active. We must not be swayed by success and failure. We should be prepared for any eventuality. Our lives should be a continuous pursuit of our goals we have set before us. It is an endless process. We have to work persistently, go on achieving our goal, and then wait for the reward of the Almighty. Here is completed this religious poem. Thanks, my dear students.